Yeah, it's like the Simpsons thing. They predict the future, but they also got a thousand other things wrong.
Exactly. And you only need, for these people, you only need to be right on one thing, too, for them to win as well. If they say 99 bullshit things that are easily factually debunked, but then they end up getting 1 point over on you, they'll gloat about it like a fucking child for the rest of the discussion. I've had a couple of debates like that where they're like wrong, and then they get one thing right and they're like, ha, you didn't even know that? You fucking idiot. These people are very obnoxious, and obnoxiousness is sometimes an effective debate tactic, but, you know, you got to handle it in a case-by-case basis.
Do you think that there is a purpose for people who disagree with you online? Obviously, you can sway people over to the side, but, you know, let's say hypothetically everybody thought the same as you. Would that be better? I mean, obviously the world would be better, hopefully. But is there a purpose for disagreement? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, my views on issues have changed massively since I started streaming. Not my general perspective or framework or anything like that, but engagements with people who disagree with me have always been valuable. I would never deny that. I would like it if people, maybe everyone, had similar views to me. I think that would definitely be preferable. You know, like less neo-Nazis, for example. That would be a positive change. But apart from that, no, I like the ideological diversity, and I think it important that ideological diversity be challenged through natural means. Such that, you know, their ideas are challenged. You can convince them through superior argumentation or just by bullying them. This is preferable to me than the idea of just snapping my fingers and changing the world in that way, you know?
Yeah. You talked about how, like, you've got your mind changed before. What example? I know there's probably been multiple times. I think the land back issue, and then also guns, maybe. What was one example that, like, stands out specifically for you?
Guns. My position on guns and violent revolution. Do I like apple pie? No, I don't like apple pie, honey. My position on guns and violent revolution have changed a lot. It might be to the point now where I'm actually, like, almost not in favor, not of political pacifism, but of resisting temptation towards violence at all costs. I've been looking at a lot of data, like a lot of data, and the evidence for non-violent revolutions being more effective than violent revolutions is actually extremely extensive and compelling. But it feels really good to be like the super violent revolutionary. And of course, if things turn to violence, you should always use violence to defend yourself. Always. You know, I'm not arguing that we should, that lefties should turn the other cheek. When it gets down to it, you know, like, that's what you have to do. But when it comes to maintaining the standard of discourse, nonviolence seems to be factually more effective, even in repressive regimes. So not just in, like, lib democracy America or whatever, but even in violent countries where they will just gun down protesters. Even in those countries, it seems to be more effective. And I didn't get into being a lefty for the fucking clout aesthetic, you know. If I wanted to just get maximum clout with no, like, ethical standard whatsoever, then I would just be like a Bernie or Buster who just LARPs about, like, violent revolution every day while giving no real solutions to any problems that'll ever actually happen. But I'm not like that. I do want us to win. And for that reason, my position is always going to be that which I think is most effective. And if that ends up changing, then fuck it, you know? And that's the position I'll adopt. I'll defend it to people who argue with me. There was, I'm sorry, there was one thing in particular that really frustrated me. Somebody on BreadTube posted a link to a YouTube video I uploaded where I was talking about Antifa with some guy who came on, and there was a person in there who said that it was, like, lib of me to say that it was a good thing for a bodyguard who was present at one of these protests to take away a gun that had been seized by a protester. There was this viral clip that went around of a protester who pulled a gun from a car during, like, the Seattle protests, and then a bodyguard ran up and took the gun away from him. And this is great. Listen, if you've ever actually been to a protest, if you're not a LARPing piece of shit who decides the weight of other people's lives based on what you fucking jerk off to while listening to Chapo Trap House, then you know the last thing you want if you're standing amongst hundreds of other people is for one of you to have a fucking gun. Okay? If one of you has an open rifle just being held out there, the chances of you people getting gunned down fucking massively skyrockets. It looks bad in the media. The pictures make it look like you're a bunch of thugs. It gives the police a greater incentive to initiate violence against you. It means far-right militia groups are far more likely to attack you and then get off afterwards. Every in every standard, as a broader protest, you do not want to be carrying. But there was one person there who was like, this is liberal. Yeah, you should be arming the proletariat, arm the homeless, and all these other vapid platitudes that don't actually mean anything when it comes to the specific reality of the situation. That shit really, really, really frustrates me. It's also, by the way, a form of political correctness. Lefties who get super fucking triggered when you suggest there are better solutions than what, like, the first thing you'd read on r/communism on Reddit could possibly be. People who get upset when you don't give, like, the default stereotype lefty, like, armed revolution answer. That's a form of political correctness. They code switch. They default to an expectation that you should performatively demonstrate an interest in ineffective types of protest. It's very frustrating for me, you know? I expected much better from the online left before I got involved in it, but hey, what are you gonna do?
With that topic of political correctness, what are your? I know you've talked about that a little bit. How, like, sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. Could you go deeper into that a little bit?
Could talk about? Wait, what was the subject?
Like, the political correctness, like, is it useful? Is it good? I mean, I'm not too informed in that topic as well, but I know you've talked about it a little bit, about how there are some benefits and some downfalls to it.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you mean by political correctness. When George Carlin did his famous skit on political correctness back in the day, he was talking about stifling business bureaucratic language, you know, or military language, you know, where you call slaughtering innocents as civilian casualties, you know, that sort of stuff. His talk of political correctness was an indictment of, you know, sort of 1980s and 1990s era dishonesty through marketable language. When people talk about political correctness nowadays, they tend to mean, like, being nice to people. To which my answer is, yeah, you should be nice to people, of course. I don't think it's a matter of political correctness to call a trans woman a woman. It's just a matter of adhering to the current medical, scientific, and philosophical, you know, consensus on the matter. You wouldn't call it political correctness to insist that a person call the sky blue, would you? You would just say, like, yeah, well, that's what it fucking is, you know? You can be dumb about it if you want, but being dumb about it's not political incorrectness. You're just being dumb about it. I generally tend to be against political correctness because I side with Carlin in my framing of it as a product of obscuring meaning through semantics, which is obviously something I'm not in favor of.